So before now, they weren't walking in poverty, but the famine could produce poverty if they weren't able to go down to Gershon and be around Joseph. Watch this. He says, and ye shall tell my father. Now notice the second time he's mentioned this. You shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt. I want you to underline that. Tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and of all that ye have seen. And ye shall haste and bring down my father hither. And so notice he says, tell my father. Now here's what's interesting. He says, tell him of my glory. Now he's not boasting about himself. What he's saying is, tell dad I made him proud. I want you to write this down. And some of you, this may be harder than in others. You have to seek to please your father. Seek to please your father. Now, I want you to go past just a natural dad, but I want you to extend to your heavenly father. Do things, ladies and gentlemen, that will bring glory back to the Father. In other words, the Father, your spiritual Father, your heavenly Father wants to see you prosper. He wants to see you prosper, but not for the thing that you prosper in to now consume you and draw your heart away from him. God has pleasure in the prosperity of his people. God doesn't mind people prospering. The issue is when the thing that you have prospered in begins to take your heart away from God. That now instead of you trusting God to get the increase, you begin to trust yourself. You begin to put more faith in your advertisement. You put more faith in social media. You put more faith in your referrals than you do the spirit and the hand of God over your life. You can do all of those things, and marketing is great. I advise people to do it. But your trust shouldn't be in the marketing over your relationship with God. Your relationship with God should supersede your marketing plan. It should supersede what you put on social media. It should supersede a Facebook page or Twitter page. That your trust has to be in your relationship with God. That it's going to manifest. Why? Because God's hand is upon your life. But he's interested in allowing his Father to be pleased with his life. And we see this attack against what we can go into spiritual authority. We can look at spiritual parenting and sonship, daughtership, that people used to do things and they would look for the approval of the person that was responsible for their soul. And now what's amazing to me is that I shared this at a memorial, which is sad. The generation we're living in now, when you hold people accountable, they call that hating. When you tell a person what they need to improve on, then you just don't want to see them go forward. And it's amazing that when you try to develop someone, people will say real quick, I've had people say, well, I want you to develop me, until the development starts. When the development starts, their idea of development is, as soon as I do something, you tell me how well I did because everybody else told me how well I did. But from a parental standpoint, spiritual parent, to praise a person where they are when you can see they can do so much really wastes time. If we're here for development, let me point out the things that you can improve on. And here's the thing that's amazing. Whereas the things I didn't have, you try to give to other people, and what you want to do is shorten up the developmental time. But what you'll find out is that you're not the only person in their ear. And many times they'll take on the conversation of somebody else who's not responsible for their soul, telling them, thus says the Lord, and look at you crazy because you haven't echoed what somebody else has already said. And you see that thing in operation, and it hurts your heart because you recognize it's only so far we can go in this relationship. We can go through the preliminary, we can go through all the sayings, and you my spiritual father and covering, you can go through all that stuff. But the truth of the matter is that person really don't want you to disciple them. They don't want you to develop them. They really prefer for you to praise them. And the moment you don't do what everybody else is doing, then you're hating on them, then you're trying to hold them back, you won't let them function in their ministry. And so it begins to get very taxing, and you just recognizing, from my perspective, I just pull back and say, okay, you're going to do what you want to do. And so, you find yourself not being able to be as effective in that person's life because their heart really don't want that discipleship. They really don't want to be developed. But when you look at the ministry of Christ, notice that he had people in different categories. He had his inner circle, then he had the outer circle, then he had the people. So out of 12 disciples, he had Peter, James, and John. They're closer to him in that perspective, whereby he showed them things he didn't show the other 9. Now, it wasn't that he was showing favoritism, but it was something that he saw. And so the sad part is, and I want to go in this even further, there are people that can actually see you with the potential that you have, but because they are not treating you in the same manner that you're used to, then you're not comfortable with that process, and then you find yourself moving away from that instead of taking advantage of what's in front of you. And I'm going to go more in detail with this. I want to get to this part. It says, and he says, tell the Father my glory in Egypt and of all that ye have seen. He says, tell him what you saw happening. So I'm not making anything up. When you go down there, tell him what you saw is manifesting. And ye shall haste and bring down my father hither. So we see that he has a concern of making sure that his father was taken care of. And verse 14 says, and he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin, watch this, wept upon his neck. Now, when you see this, I didn't go over this part, but let's bump back to verse 12. He says, behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my mouth that speaketh unto you. Now, notice this. He says, your eyes see, but he put Benjamin in another category than he put the other brothers. Why did he put Benjamin in another category? It's because he had a different relationship with Benjamin. Now, his relationship with Benjamin was different based upon how Benjamin treated him. It was more than the fact they shared the same mother, but it was Benjamin that was not part of those who went against him earlier. And so this is a thing that many people fail to realize and don't understand, that trust takes a while to build, but it can take a moment to destroy. And so because Benjamin was not part of the group that did harm to him, he put Benjamin in another category. Now he's calling everybody brother, but he's going to be separating them. And that's the thing that you got to understand, First Fruit, that if God is doing something in your life, you got to be careful when you just do what everybody else do when he's pulling you to do something different. And the thing is, because that now when the smoke clears, how will Joseph see you? How will Pharaoh see you? And this thing is so true that death and life is in the power of the tongue, but many times people don't understand their call or their assignment with where they are, so they group with other people who are not called to do the same thing that you're called to do. Yeah, your manager may not be the best manager in the world, but you cannot find yourself at the break table talking about the manager. There's a certain order to things, guys. God knew how your manager was. God know more about your manager than you do. God know what your manager go through at home and why they bring the foolishness at the job. But the thing that you got to understand, one day you're going to be a manager too. But everybody else around you will not. They'll never move out of where they currently are. So the thing that you got to recognize and understand, you start talking to them and talking about people, you're actually sowing seeds against your destiny, because later on when you become the manager, those same people are going to talk about you, and new people that come along are going to begin to talk about you. Why? Because you sowed those seeds. So you got to be careful when you're in developmental process, guys. Everything you do matters. When God is developing your life, everything you do matter. Every single day of your life is a preparation for your tomorrow. So you got to be careful when you begin to entertain things just because everybody else is, and you don't want to be the object of their wrath, so you go along with the process. Not understanding, but God is doing something in your life that he's not doing with them, and you got to begin to guard yourself. Now, in verse 14, he wept. First, notice he went to Benjamin and cried. And he wept upon Benjamin's neck. Verse 15 says, moreover, he kissed all his brethren and wept upon them. And after that, his brethren talked to him. So verse 14, he shows favor again to Benjamin. Remember, he had already, when they ate, he gave Benjamin 5 times more than what he gave them. And now he's going to Benjamin first, weeping with him. And now he's going to the other brothers, weeping with them. I also want to point this out, and I want you to hear me when I say this, that if God graced you to begin to raise you to a place of influence, there are certain people that's going to stand out from others. Don't be afraid to make the decision and to begin to work differently with those that God calls to stand out in your eyes. Now, the thing that I'm saying this for this reason, because many of you are afraid of what may be the backlash by you making a choice. Because you're choosing one person, you may have another, let's say another 10 that disagree with the choice. Now, here's what's amazing. They don't mind you choosing. They're just upset that you didn't choose them. And so the thing that you got to understand is that you have people who feel that they should have been the ones chosen, so they'll cause a coup with everybody else against you because you are not the one chosen. But here's what's amazing. Had it been them, then they will be on board with you. But you can't choose out of fear of who may have influence as well around you, that now when they begin to talk about you, they may pull the hearts of the other people against you. You got to be spirit-led. You got to also look at how have they passed tests. You have to be mindful of how have they handled things in the past leading up to current. So as you're making a decision with them, look and see how they handled things. That's going to show you a lot about the character of the person. Notice how they handle pressure. Notice when peer pressure came. Did they yield to peer pressure? Did they were willing to stand alone? A person will show you different things if they can handle true leadership. Not just a position, but I'm talking about really functioning in true leadership. If a person shows you that when things get hard, they cave in to the masses, they're not the one. Watch this. You got to look past potential. They're not the one. And so you have to wait until their potential catches up with their character, or their character, catches up with the potential. Many times we want to exalt the potential, not understanding a person's character has to catch up with the potential. A lot of people have tremendous potential, but they got low character. And what God has to do is now grace them, to let them go through some stuff to where now their character catches up with the potential. When you find someone, I want to talk to those of you that got influence. When you find someone whose potential meets their character, that's the one for you. And watch this, it's beyond gifting. Don't put that above gifting. I've seen a lot of gifted people with horrible character, and they'll destroy everything that you're doing. So somebody else will say they need to be the one because they're gifted. No. Trust character. The gifting and all of that other stuff can come. I'd rather have someone that I can trust in my corner to work with that may be less gifted than a person that's super gifted, but I can't trust them. Okay? This is what I just choose to do with all the elements that I got going on. Watch verse 16. He says, and the famine thereof was heard in Pharaoh's house, and the fame thereof were heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brethren are come, and it pleased Pharaoh well, and his servants. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, say unto thy brethren, this do ye, lay your beasts, and come, get you unto the land of Canaan. Now, let me go back. Excuse me for a minute. So we see verse 16. Look who comes into the story. This is the first time Pharaoh is now in front of the brethren. This is the first time the brethren gets to see Pharaoh up close and personal. The fame of the brethren goes out through the palace. Now Pharaoh comes in their company and he begins to address them. Now notice this. Now here's the thing that I need you to see. The brothers only have a seat in front of Pharaoh because of Joseph. It's nothing special about them. It's everything about Joseph that has provided them the opportunity to sit in front of Pharaoh. So now Pharaoh has come. He's about to talk. He's talking to the brother, and he's about to tell them that the same thing that Joseph said, that they can come and move back into the area. Now, here's the thing that I need you to see. Now I want to make some points on this. As being a first fruit offering, one of the graces that come to being a first fruit offering is that God will gift you he will anoint you, to be in front of Pharaoh. Pharaoh is a person that has major influence. Pharaoh is someone that can actually change the very course of your life with one decision. You remember when Joseph came in front of Pharaoh, and then one day Pharaoh gave him jewelry, Pharaoh gave him new clothes, Pharaoh gave him a chariot, if you would, transportation, all in one day, one sitting. Everything shifts with him. So that's something that I need you to recognize and see, that if you're going to be a first fruit offering, part of the grace that comes with being a first fruit is that God's going to put you around somebody that's influential. Here's the downside. If you are not prepared to carry the character of Joseph, you could kill your opportunity with Pharaoh. Now, the other brothers are only in front of Pharaoh because of what Joseph has already done. So when we look at this, and we look at the nature of, let's look for a minute, if you're taking notes, let's look at the nature of the relationship, or what's the relationship with Pharaoh that Joseph had. The first place we want to start, let's look at verse 8. At verse 8, here's what Joseph said as it relates to their relationship. He says, so now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. And he have made me a father to Pharaoh. I want you to bracket that off. Joseph says, God has made me a father to Pharaoh. Now, here's what's amazing. Everybody else sees Joseph as CEO, a CFO, of Egypt. Everybody else sees Joseph as a governor. Everybody else sees Joseph as a lord. But Joseph said, as it relates to me and Pharaoh's relationship, I'm like a father to him. So this now blows. I kind of mentioned it last week, but I didn't want to go into much detail to save it for this week. This blows the door open, because now here's what Joseph is saying, that, hey, guess what? You may not know this, but me and Pharaoh have a very intimate relationship. In order for him to say that that he's a father to Pharaoh, he didn't say a servant. He says a father to Pharaoh. I had to look at a couple things. I said, number one, how long has Joseph been knowing him? Joseph been knowing him now for 9 years. Remember when he gives him the illustration, interprets the dream. There was 7 years of plenteous, then 2 years of famine. They still have another 5, so that's a total of 9. Remember, he came to him at 30 years old, so now he's 39. So Joseph has 9, watch this, guys, 9 years of proving. Joseph has 9 years of proving. So that's something I want you to look at. He has 9 years of proving. Now, a lot of people may think that if I'm graced to be a first fruit offering and God has graced me to be in front of Pharaoh, I want to be in Pharaoh after 3 months. It doesn't work like that. There has to be years of proving. Now, I know it's gonna rub somebody the wrong way, because you want everything instant. You want everything right now. If you show yourself faithful for 3 months, windows of heaven need to open up and pour you out blessings you don't have room enough to receive. You can't stomach the idea that God may put you in a situation that for years you may have to prove yourself. So for 9 years, Joseph has been building a reputation and building up Pharaoh's trust. Look at this. Also, we see that he recognized he has access to all. Now, Joseph tells them, y'all come back and I'll take you over to the land of Goshen. Pharaoh now comes after him. Pharaoh didn't hear that story. Pharaoh comes after him and says, y'all come back, we got something for you. Here's the thing. Joseph was so in tune with where he was and the favor that he had. He knew he could make a decision concerning anything in Egypt, and Pharaoh would co-sign on it. Now, I want you to add to this. The third thing that I need you to see is, can you move without asking? Can you move without asking due to Pharaoh's trust? I want you to write that down. Can you move without asking due to Pharaoh's trust? Now, here's what I mean. That many times if you have a lenient boss, or a boss that seems to be lenient, and they are not micromanaging you, that's actually a blessing. But we talked about this a few months ago in our leadership course, that where it could have been a little further, that some people want Pharaoh, if the leader, if you would, to give them step by step on what they want them to do. And I began to share that if they're not giving you step by step, they're looking for you to use your creativity to figure out how to solve the situation. If they got to give you step by step, then what's the need of you being there? They're doing the work on their own. And so here's the thing that many of you fail to realize or don't understand. Just because you would prefer something to be a certain way doesn't mean that's the right way to get it done at that time and season. And so you have to be open that now if Pharaoh does not micromanage you but still wants you to produce, it's an opportunity for you to find out how to navigate through the tests and trials that you see trying to fix the problem. It's an opportunity for you to grow. It's an opportunity for you to show Pharaoh you can trust them. Now, if you do this consistently, Pharaoh is going to pull back more and more. This is the issue that we have with people that deal with the spirit of rejection. When the leader begins to pull back, they see it as an offense. That why you don't like me, why you're not talking to me as much as you used to, why you're not trying to do this, and why it don't seem like we buddy-buddy. It's because they're actually saying, I believe that you can handle yourself in a better degree than you did at an early stage of our relationship. But the spirit of rejection will cause you now to start feeling some kind of way because you're not getting the same attention that you used to give in the past. But you got to understand that now, when they went to Pharaoh in the middle of the famine, after the 7 years of plenty, they said, Pharaoh, what do we do? He said, whatever Joseph tell y'all to do, do. Why? Because Joseph had proven himself for 7 years that he has, watch this, here's the key, he had Pharaoh's best interest at hand. This is where many people mess up. They get to a place of prominence. They get to a place of influence. They get up under Pharaoh. Now you begin to allow other people to cause you to manipulate your position, and you kill your opportunity. In other words, here's what happened. And I don't know about other cultures, but I see this in our culture. The moment somebody gets any kind of place, the first thing we hear, and this normally comes from people close to us, give me the hookup. Oh, you a manager over so-and-so? Hey, man, can we come there and eat? Can you give me some free fries? Can you give me a free milkshake? Can you give me something? Can you do? In other words, here's what a poverty mindset. Remember we talked about that? A poverty mindset wants you to jeopardize your position to give them a crumb. So a poverty mindset wants that person to jeopardize everything they work hard to give them a crumb. What you mean by a crumb? The thing that they're asking for is nothing compared to the bigger picture. So watch this. Instead of me getting a managerial position at Foot Locker and you trying to come in to get the hookup, how about you and your family, y'all come to my store to purchase y'all back to school clothes instead of going somewhere else so my numbers can go up? Why that can't be the blessing? Why is it that when I get there, I got to turn around and give you? Why is it you can't help me look good in my position in front of Pharaoh? You see the difference in that? A poverty mindset doesn't care about you. A poverty mindset is just concerned about them getting the hookup again. And so this question been asked several different times by you guys about, when God began to bless me or give me increase, how am I going to manage my family members and my friends and the people that are close to me? It's easy. Instead of you worrying about managing them, let them manage themselves. In other words, let them delete themselves, let them cancel themselves out, let them do crazy stuff, let them do poverty mind stuff to show you that they're not ready to go before Pharaoh. Now, I got to emphasize this because you got to understand that once you get before Pharaoh, and that is your seat, that is your positioning, Pharaoh has trusted things in your possession and according to the gift that you have. You got to be reminded, how long did it take you to get there? What all have you had to go through just to build Pharaoh's trust with you? Are you willing to throw that away to prove something to a person? Watch this, guys, who have a poverty mindset. People with poverty mindset, increase does not make them better. They have to change their heart. They have to change their mind. Just giving them something is not going to help them. So here's example of a poverty mindset. You get the job at Foot Locker, you move your way up, you're a manager. You let them use your discount. Here's what a poverty mindset is. Send other people down there that you don't even know to tell them to ask for you to use your discount. You never met Tonyo before. All of a sudden, Tonyo asks for you. Tonyo looking crazy. He looking all bug-eyed. You walk out there, never met Tonyo before. He say, well, my homeboy, you know what I'm saying? He told me come out here, you know what I'm talking about, that you know what I'm saying, you can hook me up with some so-and-so, and I can get the 50% off. I can use your employee discount. You don't know Tonyo. But my point is this. The person that you helped out has a poverty mindset. How do we know? They were more concerned about looking good in front of Tonyo to jeopardize what you have. They didn't mind that when Tonyo get down there, he's not going to be discreet. He going to talk loud. He going to get an attitude. When you tell Tonyo you don't know him, Tonyo going to blast out everybody. He going to try to fight part of the staff. He going to cause a disruption. They know how Tonyo is, but they at the barbershop trying to prove something. So they tell Tonyo, go down there and holler at my homeboy. He'll hook you up. Didn't even bother calling you to ask you, can you do it? But just sit Tonyo down there anyway. See, I'm not trying to pick at anybody, but I'm trying to help you to understand, and many of you have people in your life who are like that. At that moment, when they come with that crazy stuff, you have to counsel them out and say, you know what, I cannot bring you before Pharaoh. Now, they're going to talk about you. They're going to go back and say, you know what, man, I sent my homeboy down there, and she didn't even want to help them out. She thinks she brand new. He thinks he all that since they got that little position. Here's the thing. Some of you would cave in to try to get them to like you again. But with me, immediately I said, oh, you know what? You just confirmed I made the right decision. That the moment I don't give you what you want, you enhance your attack. You prove that I made the right decision. And so that's what I'm trying to help you to understand, that if you're really going to move into this thing, that God is, because I'm talking to somebody now, God is gracing you to go before Pharaoh. He's gracing you to be around people with influence. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the thing, and I hate this as I'm telling you this. Everybody cannot sit before Pharaoh simply because you do. Everybody can't handle being in front of Pharaoh simply because you have that place. And I had to learn this the hard way, and I'm still learning this, because I just felt like if I get before Pharaoh, I want to take as many people as I can with me in front of Pharaoh as well. But you got to be careful, because here's the thing. How did you get before Pharaoh in the beginning? Trust. You built up trust. Did you not know that trust takes a long time to build, but in one moment it can be destroyed? So now you tell somebody about what you into, and you bring them to the table. And y'all are sitting around, you're around people that's even pouring into you. You learn how to be quiet and take notes. Now, they begin to talk. You don't understand what they're talking about because you're learning the lingo. But the person you bring with you is trying to be impressive. They're not thinking about it's the grace of God that got us here. They're just thinking about, let me show I belong, and they start saying stupid stuff in the middle of a business meeting. A meeting that you was invited to, and you're there to learn. Get increase. You're learning while you get increase. They bust out with some food stuff. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Shout it, you know what I'm saying? Because you know what I'm saying? You can do that like that there, folk. You know what I'm talking about there? You know what I'm saying? No. Here's the thing you got to understand. You just made an impression with Pharaoh, and here's the thing that Pharaoh going to look at you. Pharaoh going to say, okay, can I really trust you? Because who you brought was a decision on you. When you bring stupid people around important situations, you're going to look stupid even though you didn't say anything. Why? Because you chose that person that said the stupid stuff. Now, some of y'all, now I know this thing hard for you because you want to take everybody with you, and you think blood is thicker than water. If I come up, my folks going to come up. Some folks cannot come up. You're going to have to take care of them later on. You got to be careful. Here's the thing. You can bless them later. But I'm talking about those who are going to be in front of Pharaoh when Pharaoh is present. We're not talking about down the hall. We're not talking about on the other side of the building. Pharaoh is right there. And if the person that you bring begins to act crazy, Pharaoh is going to look to you and say, here's an example. Here's a nice way to, just in case you there, here's what you're going to hear. Who brought you? They're trying to find out. Who you associated with, because I don't know you. How did you even get here? If they ask a person, if you're on a conference call, and they say, who you with? Who brought you? I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. That means I don't know you. Who invited you? Oh, so-and-so invited me. Guess what? You just tagged yourself to say, you know what? You can't be trusted. Now, then you're going to get mad at Pharaoh for making a decision, but you're the one who brought a person who is not ready to sit in front of Pharaoh. And so the thing that you got to understand at certain functions is not about being impressive. Sometimes the most impressive thing you can do is sit there and look smart. They don't know what you know until you open your mouth. So sometimes if you're in an arena that is above you, you don't know what they're talking about, you need to just ask questions, or you just need to shut up, take you some notes. Let me help you with this, because I see this a killer. Some people are very negative the moment they can't run things. So while they're in a new arena, they're in front of Pharaoh, guess what they're whispering about? They're texting. Now, sometimes we used to lean over. Now they'll text you, why they doing it like that? They shouldn't, see, if it were me, I wouldn't do it like that. They shouldn't be doing it like that. Here's the thing, it ain't you. So you might not learn why Pharaoh is making the decision that Pharaoh is making until one day you become Pharaoh. So right now, you know what you need to do? Take notes. Mentally say, well, you know, I think it can be done different. And here's the kicker. It probably can be. But you're not running things. So just be quiet. And if they don't ask you your opinion, you got to learn how to be quiet and shut up, guys. Not trying to be harsh, but I'm trying to really get you to understand sometimes it's not meant for you to say anything. Because many times we can jump to conclusion because you don't have all the factors. And so many times you may say this is how it should be handled because you're thinking about what you personally want. But you got to understand, Pharaoh cannot be concerned about your personal desire. He has to be concerned about the totality of everybody. And so now, Joseph, if God graced you to be in front of Pharaoh, do not forfeit that position trying to pull on someone who is not even ready to have a seat in front of Pharaoh anyway. Let me explain this. I'm going to say this, and you can write this however. This is something that the Holy Spirit gave me. When Pharaoh, watch this, when Pharaoh is vulnerable enough to show you their weaknesses and everyone else their strengths, they are placing the kingdom in your hand. When Pharaoh is vulnerable enough to show you their weaknesses and everyone else their strengths, they are placing the kingdom in your hand. Now, you remember what Joseph said, Pharaoh, I am a father to Pharaoh. So that means that Joseph has seen some weaknesses of Pharaoh. Pharaoh has shown some vulnerability. Pharaoh has shown Joseph some things about him that he is not comfortable showing everybody else. So you got to understand that when Pharaoh is vulnerable enough to show you their weaknesses. So here's the thing. If you get close enough to leadership, if you get close enough to people of influence, and they are handling everything, they're doing everything, but when it comes to you, at different moments, they let you see their humanity. They let you see their weaknesses. While everybody else sees your strength, what they're actually doing is giving you a part of their kingdom. They're giving you a part of what they're responsible of. Because here's the thing. Everybody can't handle seeing their weaknesses and their humanity. And some people may use their weaknesses and their humanity against them. And so when Pharaoh learns how to be vulnerable, and here's the thing that you got to understand, even though a lot of people want elevation, a lot of people want, to God to make them high, all this stuff, you got to understand the higher you go, the more lonely you're going to be. Because you're going to have trust issues even more. And so that's why God has to get certain things out of your heart, because you're going to be suspect about everybody that you meet. And it doesn't have to be from a negative perspective where you talk against them, but you will be concerned with what's your motive? Why are you around me? If I didn't have this, would you still be here? And are you trying to take what I have? Are you trying to manipulate me out of what I have? And so to go to a person, go to a millionaire, or if you ever run across one and end up in their presence on a regular basis, the first thing you do is ask them for money. You just killed it. You just killed it. See, a poverty mindset is you're around them. Why don't you ask them for it? You got favor with them. Ask them to give you a couple of dollars. You don't go into situations like that. You ask them what they do. You try to gain knowledge. So the thing that you need to understand, ultimately you're going to find a place to serve, but you want to gain knowledge from them. Everybody that's around them want their money. They know that. They know that. They hear requests for money all the time. What's going to separate you from them? They got to understand that you're in it for a purpose of a relationship. And so the thing is with Joseph wasn't around Pharaoh to come up off Pharaoh. He was just simply doing what he was doing. It was Pharaoh that gave him elevation. See, the thing about being a person of influence is that that most people, here's the sad part, most people that do come around you, they're only around you because you can meet a need. The moment they don't feel you can no longer meet their need, they don't have a problem walking away from you. And so you got to understand that when a person sees this over and over again, all the time, why are you different? And that's what you have to show. Now that you're coming around me, why are you different? Why should I look at you different? Why should I treat you different? Why should I open my life up and show you another side of me? And so that now when Pharaoh shows you their vulnerability, they're actually placing a part of the kingdom in your hand. I also want you to think about this. Watch this. Now, God gave me this. We were riding, talking. This was a few days ago. I asked him to bring this back to my remembrance, and this just blessed my socks. I hope it bless you. We want only, watch this, we want to only and always see the glory and not the humanity. We want to only and always see the glory of Pharaoh and not the humanity of Pharaoh. I want to explain this. Because their glory, watch this, guys, because their glory is what blesses us, but their humanity is what put us to work. Watch this. Because their glory is what blesses us, but their humanity is what put us to work. So when we get around people, now here's the thing that's amazing. We get around Pharaoh, everybody is blessed through Pharaoh's glory. Watch this. Here's what killed a lot of people when they get a chance to be around Pharaoh. They get a place next to Pharaoh. They think, from a distance, the closer I get to Pharaoh, the more Pharaoh's glory is going to roll off on me. So they're getting close to Pharaoh, expecting a rollover on their lives. But God, that's not why you get to Pharaoh. If you get to Pharaoh, for Pharaoh to trust you enough, to be vulnerable enough, watch this, to show you their weaknesses and their humanity, not the glory, because the closer you get, you're going to start seeing humanity. Why? Because the humanity, watch this, guys, the humanity of them is what puts you to work. If you would, you can put a parenthesis, serving. When you see the weakness of Pharaoh, it's to show you where you fit in to help Pharaoh out. You don't get closer to take pictures with them. You don't get closer to name drop. You get closer to find out where they need help. Oh, my God. See, some of you can't handle that because once you get closer to Pharaoh, you find out Pharaoh has weaknesses. Pharaoh had weaknesses 3 years ago. You just kept seeing the glory. The reason you see the weaknesses and the humanity is to show you where you fit in to help Pharaoh out. Now, here's what's amazing. It's amazing that Pharaoh can see your weaknesses. You want Pharaoh to pray over your weaknesses. You want Pharaoh to fast over your weaknesses. You want Pharaoh to give you scriptures concerning your weaknesses. You want to just receive. And then you think, if I get closer to Pharaoh, I get to receive more. Then when you start to see that Pharaoh is human, and it's by the grace of God, then you get frustrated when you start to see their humanity and their weaknesses. Why? Because all this spells out to you that it's not about you anymore. And so the immaturity side of you that wants to keep getting blessed off the glory, you done passed through that. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get anything. There's a blessing in that too, because you get to see how Pharaoh handles himself, even though Pharaoh may have been nervous, Pharaoh may have been scared, but Pharaoh goes out and get it done. And you say, man, I got a chance to see behind the scenes. He just got this bad phone call. All this other stuff was happening, and I seen him cry. He washed his face and went out there and handled his business. Like, man, I don't think I could have did that. Now, here's the thing. You didn't see that simply to say how to handle conflict, even though it is. The other part of you saying that is, you need to ask yourself, did I just make that situation easier for them? I know I can't go out there and do it for them, but the next time I'm in that environment, can I do something to help lift the burden for them? And that's the problem that we have, and that God doesn't want to grace people to be in front of Pharaoh. He's gracing you. It's already in motion. I just hope you do right when your chance comes. I just hope you do right when you're sitting there. And let me tell you this as well. You can't find out the weaknesses and the vulnerability of Pharaoh and then go back to somebody with a poverty mindset to expose them. Now, the thing that you got to understand, that person has no connection. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to put them out there. And the stuff they put out there may be right. Now, I've seen a lot of different videos of people talking about folks that they got church hurt, and this pastor is doing this, and this pastor is doing that. Now, here's the thing. They let you pretty close. And if you reach out to them and try to handle the situation and there's no resolve, to go on Facebook and do a live, to go on YouTube and do a live, to go on Twitter and do a live. I mean, I got to really ask, what's your motivation? The stuff you're saying could be absolutely true, but what's really your motivation? So are you trying to reconcile, or are you trying to make sure that the things that's going on wrong is not associated with you? So you're really trying to enhance your reputation with the people. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful when that. And so here's the thing you got to understand. Even if they're dead wrong, God can reconcile. He can do some things. He can restore them. I'm sorry. So what happens when that person now moves forward? They've moved out of whatever they were struggling in. Now they are suspect to everybody else who get close to say, okay, I know how y'all going to act once the cameras are rolling. Because the truth of the matter, I just think it should have stayed between them and them. When they showed you, it was between you and them. When y'all discuss it, it should stay between you and them. Telling the public, I think it's very immature. I think it's self-motivated. I think it also points to the fact that maybe you wasn't as anointed as you thought you were. That there's some things inside of you that you got to get resolved. Fronting and calling out leadership, I just totally disagree with that. I think you should go to that person, and it is their function, it's their business, it's their church. You talk to them. If they choose not to make any changes, you can leave. It's going about your business. Just don't bring it up anymore. If you're truly free from it and God release you, why are you still talking about it? What you fail to realize, if you stick towards Scripture, you don't see God ever promoting anything like that, guys. You don't see it. We can go back to David. David saw weaknesses in Saul. He didn't put it out there. He kept it to himself. He dealt with Saul. He talked to Jonathan about it, who also was trying to help fix it. They never gossiped about Saul. He stayed in his lane. What did God do? I'm gonna go over this. God gave David the kingdom. And see, that's the thing. Immaturity says, oh, put it out there. Immaturity says, put them on blast. But Scripture tell you, man, just be still. Don't fight back. Sometimes you're going to get stuff said about you and you're not able to even mention anything. and it seemed like your name just being drug under the mud. If I went and tried to address everything I heard somebody say about me to try to prove that, man, I wouldn't be able to sleep. Hey, there are times like, hey, God, it's on you, man. I know I ain't do that. I know I ain't say that. I ain't mean that when I said that. And I know what I said, what I meant, and just let it go. Why? Because I'm just telling you how you deal with me. What's the point? What's the point? Man, I got other stuff I need to worry about. I promise you, I have tons of things I need to worry about, tons of things I need to set my affection after. And before I leave you, I really want to emphasize, and I really want you to understand that as God graces you to be around Pharaoh, you got to understand that if Pharaoh is used to everybody pulling from him or her, Pharaoh is looking for somebody who's going to be an asset. All right? I really want you to understand that. When you have majority of the people that's around you constantly pulling from you, the thing that makes you attractive or makes someone attracted to you is their ability to be an asset. Not somebody else with their hand held out. Somebody else saying, what can you give me? You're looking for people who are an asset that can appreciate the glory, also see your weaknesses, and jump in to help you with those things that you can't get done on your own. I'm talking in front of you guys right now. There's a camera in front of me. There's lights here. There's streaming. There's moderators here. There's people helping around this room. Now, could I set this up on my own? I could, but it'd be a lot harder. Could I talk to you and look down to see the comments and try to address the comment? I could, but it'd be a lot harder. My point is, there's people here now that sees a weakness, and they have found a way to help facilitate that weakness that I can walk in what I need to walk in. So that stands out. That makes a lot of sense to me. That's attractive to me. Then to just sit back and see, how can I benefit? How can everything go my way? That's everybody's always pulling. Everybody have their hand out. When you go before Pharaoh, guys, and Pharaoh can see intentions. Please understand that Pharaoh can see intentions. So if you go before Pharaoh, I want to take you to dinner. Pharaoh, let's go to lunch. But the whole time you want to go to lunch, you want your own private counseling session, Pharaoh can pick up on that. If you're sincere about just feeding Pharaoh or blessing Pharaoh, give him a gift card. Or if you do sit down, let Pharaoh decide whether or not they want to talk or not. Don't push an issue. And don't say stuff like, since I got you here. That sounds very manipulative to a Pharaoh. Let me open the floor for any questions or comments.
Question is from Letitia Tokplo. What if the weakness is something like drinking? What can you do besides praying for them? Can you share scriptures about the subject?
If the weakness is a habit that person has, I think that there's a time and a place to have that conversation. I think that level of trust would be super important. And Tisha, I want to thank you for your question as well. To just walk up to Pharaoh, I'm just using a person of prominent, or influence to say, hey, I recognize you got a drinking problem, you need to stop. It's not going to be effective. But building the type of relationship whereby that person trusts your counsel, and in trusting your counsel, you can pray and ask God to give you the opportunity to be able to share with them. And the thing that we got to understand as well, that we want to pray for timing. Timing is more important than being right. And so that for them to be able to receive, there are certain things that God has to allow them to go through so their heart will be open. But you can pray for an opportunity to share with them what you see that they're walking in that may be a hindrance to where they're going. But the key to those kind of intimate conversations will be that level of trust that's developed between you and them. So one thing that I see people kill this is well, I'm just going to say it because it is what it is. Somebody got to say something. Okay, go in there like a bull in a china shop. You're going to mess up everything. And once they fire you, well, they just couldn't handle the truth. No, you just not sensitive to the situation. You're not sensitive to what's going on, and you got to be careful. One day you may be Pharaoh too. And sometimes, and here's the thing that I seen had to happen. Sometimes people have to you have to let stuff run its course. they end up in a situation similar to yours, and the same thing happened to them on a lesser degree, they'll come back and, oh, I'm so sorry. I want to just say I'm sorry to you because I didn't know how hard it was until it, man, people something else. And it, okay. So build that trust, with them, and the more they feel they can trust you, I think will open the doors to more intimate conversations. And so when you get, again, if you be around Pharaoh and you see their humanity, it's the glory that blesses you. But if you get a chance to see their humanity and their weaknesses, God is showing you the areas that you are anointed to help them with the things that they're struggling in. And one of the most attractive things that I can say, and anyone else that's responsible for a lot of stuff, one of the most attractive things to me are not people that's asking me to help them, but are people that's asking me what could they do to help me. So be that person. Be a person that serves, have a servant heart, be able to be anointed enough for Pharaoh to show you their vulnerabilities, be mature enough to be able to hold certain informations and conversations and just pray about them. And there's certain things you might not be able to talk to your spouse about because your spouse may not be mature enough to handle what it is that you just saw, what it is that God has revealed to you. So this thing is so detailed, man, and so necessary, so important that you just can't just handle this very fearlessly. And this thing that you got to understand as well, if you kill your shot with Pharaoh, you may not get another one because Pharaoh has the ability to change your life. And so if you mess it up, you might kill that. They may never be able to trust you with that again, and they move on. And now you want to talk about them and say they acting our culture, they acting brand new. But the truth of the matter is, you should have became brand new and changed to be able to handle the increase that's going on in your life. So don't get mad at them if they recognize that you have a poverty mindset and they can't take you in front of Pharaoh. So I want to stop right there because it's a lot in that other piece. Once I get into that, it's a whole nother subject matter. But Pharaoh, if you would, is telling them, I'm going to conclude with this. So we look at verse 18. He says, and take your father and your households, look at this, and come unto me, and I will give you the good of the land of Egypt, and you shall eat the fat of the land. Now, Joseph told them, if y'all come, I'm going to take care of y'all. But here's what's amazing. Pharaoh came back and echoed and said, y'all come. Notice this. Joseph just told them what? They had 5 years of famine left. Pharaoh said, come and eat the fat of the land. You're not going to feel the famine. That's how big our God is. God could do something where everyone else is struggling, you're increasing. That is the grace of God, and that's the hand of God on your life. Ladies and gentlemen, don't mess that up because you insist on taking people with a poverty mindset in the company of Pharaoh. Don't mess that up. So when God has graced you to do those kind of things, guess what? Hear a person conversation is going to tell you the extent of their heart. And everybody cannot go in front of Pharaoh if God has given you a position in front of Pharaoh. And so be careful of folks manipulating you and making you feel bad because, oh, we used to say in elementary school, oh, you the teacher's pet. No, that person built trust. That's why the teacher gave them more things to do. That's why the teacher extended them favor. We were not willing to do what they were willing to do, so we were not able to get what they received. And with that, I say God bless you. May He increase your life in Jesus' name.